Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Vampire 2. We're continuing with these Research Bureau ships and whether or not I think they're worth getting in 2025. Research points are very difficult to get. It takes you a lot of regrinding to actually get enough points for any of these ships. They're very, very expensive in time specifically to gain these things. Vampire 2 is a side grade of a Daring. It's very similar. In fact, this is a similar deal to Sicilia and Colombo. Personally, I prefer Daring, all right? You got to know that going in. I just prefer Daring to Vampire 2. When I'm playing this ship, I often wish I was playing a Daring instead. This ship is still very good, though. This is a very interesting ship with this Commonwealth crawling smoke, I guess we would call it. Not a fuel or exhaust smoke, but it allows you to crawl along at a quarter speed and remain undetected. Really interesting, really fun to mess around with. You also get a 5-kilometer hydro here. And a little more DPM than Daring. But when it comes to these Research Bureau ships, it's just so expensive to get a side grade of a Tech Tree Tier 10, in my opinion. The Vampire 2 here is a great example of just get yourself a Daring. Just get yourself the Tech Tree ship rather than regrinding over and over and over again. The Illinois, I think, was a great example of the opposite, where you really can't get that experience anywhere else in this game. Battleship with cruiser guns, heavy cruiser guns on it, that level of DPM is very weird, very different, and you can't really find that anywhere else. Vampire 2, though, this is a very similar ship to Daring, and without a heal. If you know me, you'll know I love heals on my ships, and not having a heal is probably the reason that I'm usually preferring Daring. That said, though, Vampire does have a lot of strengths, and you're going to see that here with this crawling smoke, allowing us to farm relatively comfortably and not even get caught by this Lucian Hydro. He was sneaking up on us, trying to get that Hydro spot on us, and just because we're constantly moving, we can always be a little bit further away than they expect. Where if I was in a standard destroyer smoke, that Lucian would know exactly where that smoke is staying and would be able to easily Hydro spot me, and probably we would take a lot more damage. Really, really unique to be able to move around with your smoke while still being able to farm. The maneuverability here is the same as Daring, or pretty much the same. You have a slightly better rudder shift, slightly worse turning radius, but not enough to make too much difference, honestly. The built-in acceleration here is really what saves these two ships, and Vampire 2 actually gets a speed boost, where the Daring does not. It's only an 8%, so it's not crazy, but given the built-in acceleration we have here on these British ships, it's very powerful. Your Hydro is also really, really strong, 5 kilometers instead of 3 kilometers on the Daring, but it doesn't have as long of a duration. So you can smoke Hydro gimmick people, and I'll show you that a little bit later. We got it quite a few times. It's just a little harder to do than something like a Z52, for example. We want to be using the AP, although it really didn't perform very well in on that Napoli broadside. I was very surprised by that, actually. We should have the pen to get through his broadside upper belt, but maybe not, actually. I don't know. I was surprised by that. These smokes, though, are the real make or break of this ship. It's really powerful to be able to sit here and farm, but you need spotting for that. And that isn't always going to happen in your matches. This game, we had an excellent Shima player who was honestly doing a lot better than I was with the torpedoes, as well as providing us a ton of spotting, allowing us to freely farm here. That is pretty rare. I mean, you could division it, I suppose, but solo play, you're not always going to have that very consistent spotting that's required to make use of these smokes that last over 100 seconds base, even before you start buffing them. It's a long time, and often you don't have a consistent target to farm for that period of time. At least that's been my experience while playing these ships, or this ship in particular. And that's why I value the Daring smokes. While yes, you only get 40-second smoke duration on Daring, you get a lot more of those smokes, 6 base versus the 3 base here. I really, really enjoy the bursty smokes that Daring gives you, because you set up and farm when you have the opportunity to, but you're not overstaying your welcome. You're not overstaying how long you're in that smoke, and the spotting might go away in that time of a longer duration smoke. Daring lets you set up when you know you have spotting, farm for a bit, and then move on, which I really, really do enjoy. Alongside just healing in general, allowing you to play aggressive, is really, really fun. I way prefer having healing to the crawling smokes and the engine boost. That's just me, though. I can understand, though, if you do enjoy this ship and the extra DPM it provides, alongside the cap control, the cap pressure you can have. And while Daring is also really good at contesting those caps, you don't quite have the DPM of Vampire 2. The guns are basically the same in every aspect except their reload. 2.5 seconds on Vampire versus 2.8 seconds. These are the base reload speeds of these two ships. So quite a bit more DPM here when it comes to the Vampire 2. And we can see that in these destroyer engagements. We also just managed to land a ton of torpedoes there as we were helping finish off that Harugumo. People don't necessarily expect the 12 kilometers of range on these torps, I think, on Vampire 2. Daring only gets 10 kilometers of range, so a little bit of extra range there. The damage output is quite a bit higher, 19,500 alpha damage on Vampire 2 torps versus 16,700 or so on the Daring, but you only get one launcher. You get one 5-torp launcher on the Vampire 2, where Daring gets 10 torps. So quite a bit worse torp power for the most part, I would say. Your reload is quite a bit faster to compensate, but not enough to have the same amount of torp DPM or torps launching at once. It's a 96-second reload base on the torps versus 125 on the Daring. Neither one of these are especially powerful torp ships. The ability to single launch is quite fun, though, and Vampire 2 can do a really good job of that as well. Just not sending out quite as many at a time. These are really gunboat destroyers, though, mostly. I would not really want to play these for torps, although I think that's what the Daring Legendary mod is. I haven't really messed around with that, though, to be honest. I much prefer gunboat destroyers, as well as, especially on these two ships, Vampire and Daring, way prefer playing gun build because the guns are just so powerful. These HE shells have a lot of alpha damage, 1700, but also have a base fire chance of 8%. We reload way faster than a gearing does, while also having, what, 3% better base fire chance? So we're just absolutely spamming out the fires here. It is crazy how much more damage we have these days than some of the older ships. Yeah, it's a 5% fire chance on the gearing versus Daring and Vampire with 8. And a way faster. It's crazy. But hey, that's the way the game is. Things do get more powerful over time. Now then, Smoke Hydro Cap Gimmick. Here it is. Look at the HE damage we're going to get into this guy. The salvos are like over 2,000 each time we hit them. Absolutely disgusting DPM here. And while we don't quite manage to finish him off, we don't have a 6-kilometer hydro. It's that 5 kilometers, 6 being on the Z52. We still managed to get the cap there and provide a lot of pressure. The key is to not overcommit into those situations. You got to be very, very, very careful when playing like that. You got to know exactly where or if and where those radar cruisers are on the enemy team. Who else could have a hydro or a longer duration, a longer reaching hydro than you do? And if you're going to get spotted in front of people pushing enemy destroyers like that, you're often going to be closer to the enemy team and their support versus your support behind you. So you got to be careful. But we did manage to do a good job there. The AP doing some good damage in on this Holland here. The AP having short fuses and improved pen angles does allow us to use it against destroyers. I don't always think it's the best to use it against DDs. I think you're going to see that here in the Groningen. I was expecting a lot higher alpha damage salvos on this guy. The HE would have done similar damage, maybe even a little bit better, because we're not bouncing or overpenning when we use the AP. You need thicker destroyer hulls. Shimikazes are often just going to take overpens. I figured Groningen would be wide enough, honestly. But maybe it's just misaiming here, but like that was 1,000 damage. That was another 1,200. There's 26. Okay, that's pretty good. Another 1,000. Another 1,000. The HE salvos into that Shima were doing around 2,000, right? This is where the AP versus HE comes into play. Do you want to swap to the AP when fighting destroyers? Sometimes that answer is just a definitive yes. Certainly into the larger destroyers like an Elbing, for example, when it has armor, Ragnar having armor to shatter your HE, for sure. You definitely want the AP there, especially if they're giving you enough broadside. But against some of the more standard, smaller destroyers, I will often just stick with the high explosive. Especially because it takes you some time to swap shells, even if that is only half a second or a second. That is some lost DPM. But also, anytime they start angling even a little bit, suddenly you're getting bounces, and that's, again, lost DPM where the HE wouldn't be. Perhaps I don't believe in the AP enough, or maybe I'm not using it well enough, but I do consider the HE to just be a little bit better overall to just stick with in these destroyer engagements. But there are opportunities. There are certainly times where you should be swapping. And to be honest, in the moment when I was playing these games, the AP felt fine into these destroyer engagements. It's only looking back that I realized that the HE probably would have done similar damage or even a little bit better. But if it's comparable, then maybe risking that for the upside of sometimes getting 3.5, 4K salvos with the AP is worth it. If you do manage to get all full pens on someone, maybe that is worth it. All right, now on to the Hydro gimmick on a cap with an island. We're going to get a lot of spotting damage this game. We're Hydro spotting the Smolensk. We're Hydro spotting in return, but we have a little bit of a alcove here to hide in, and our team is set up very well to deal damage to this Smolensk, as well as Ragnar. We ended up spotting that Ragnar as well, the Z. 35k spotting into squishier ships, DDs, light cruisers like that. Very good early game. Unfortunately, that means our Hydro was down for when the torps come for us. And I managed to eat 2 Baoan torps in a vampire. That is just sad. A little unfortunate, probably, but yeah, not having that Hydro duration of daring is a little bit unfortunate. But we got the extra spotting, like over 60k spotting just by sitting on an island like that is kind of wild. It is very, very powerful in those situations. Moving on, we've got another match here where a Z52 has that 6-kilometer Hydro. We don't want to get caught in that Hydro. We just have that kilometer disadvantage. Some of these salvos, though, I think I got a couple 3k salvos into that Z. So the advantage of that AP is certainly there. We get the 360 turrets as well. I mean, Daring gets that too. Vampire 2 can do a ton of damage. We're on 40k right now, and this game is over already. It's like 5 minutes into the match. Yep. I'm struggling with those blowouts too, guys. Don't you worry. It's not just you. The game quality, the match quality these days are not very high. It's difficult to get any sort of good match. One good match where it's close and we do good work all the way through. It's hard to get those kind of games for these videos. That's why you're seeing me cut through a lot of different matches. But Vampire 2 can still show us what it's capable of. Here, these smokes are a big advantage. So, while Daring lets us smoke up often, but for brief periods of time, when we do have spotting and people are pushing into us, these extra long duration smokes that let us slowly maneuver around are really, really powerful. The fire chance here, excellent for getting permanent fires on enemy battleships, and then we can swap over to that AP, improved angles, and do some really good work into them. There's Valparaiso here fighting a Yamato, so understandably going to be angling to him, so we got the AP, and we're going to get some pretty nice salvos. Valparaiso also just gets infinite damage controls instantly when he's in secondary range, so again, staying with that AP, especially because he's broadside, so good damage in, and then he's going to angle to us. I keep expecting him to go broadside again, that's why I don't swap, but probably could have swapped a few 1700 damage salvos, but most of them are like 300 or so. Probably worth going back to the HE here. The torps are coming in, and who could that be? 4 torpedoes? That's probably the Z52. I'm worried that he's going to catch up and Hydro spot me. I have my Hydro going. A lot of the time when you're in this situation, you're chilling. Because any destroyer that tries to push you like this, for the most part, is going to get Hydro spotted, and then you just get to out DPM them, and well, they're just kind of done then. But a Z52, a Smolensk, a Ragnar, these radar and long range Hydro destroyers are unique in that you got to be careful. You got to be very, very careful into those situations. That's why I leave my smoke, and that's why I don't necessarily slow down and stop, even though we're at 5.2. We could have charged him here, but I was hoping to go dark a little bit sooner. I didn't realize my angle on the Schlieffen there was keeping me spotted for so long. And then we're going to lose our engine, I think, twice in a row here. So a bit squishy on the modules of this ship. And that's why you don't really want to stay spotted for too long in this one. And no heal, obviously, as well. The DPM is still really, really good. But I highly value the ability to take an engagement, take some damage, deal some damage, but then heal it back with Daring. Where Vampire 2, all this damage we take early game is permanent. And any HP that you've lost early on is going to massively impact you late game. That's pretty standard for destroyers, though. But Daring does have that unique advantage, so I do have to mention it. We do end up going down here, but even in a blowout game like that, I think Vampire 2 showed its DPM well. Over 140k damage there right at the end. Very quickly to rack up a lot of damage. If you have the spotting, if you can make use of these smokes, it's still a very good ship. It's not a bad ship at all. I just personally prefer Daring to this one. And because Daring is so much easier to get, it's one line you got to grind instead of like 5 or 6 over again after getting 5 of them for research points. Just get a Daring. And only if you really like Daring and think you'd rather have the long duration smokes and a longer reaching hydro at the cost of torpedoes and no heal, should you think about getting yourself a Vampire 2. For me, though, I would not be as interested in this one because I think it's a great example of the tech tree just fitting my playstyle much, much more. And for most people, I would say, I think the heal is better, as is the smoke that's short burst, short duration, and comes back quicker. Oftentimes, the smoke can just give you away also when it's active and you are traversing across the map. Tells the enemy team exactly where you are and where you are going. As for the build on this ship that I was running, looks a little something like this. I was using the engine boost mod here, not the hydro mod, because I was taking the aiming systems here instead of smoke gen. I really want to guarantee those AP salvos in on destroyers, or at least I was trying to. I wanted to really, really give the AP a go, because my default is to just stick with HE when fighting destroyers. But I wanted to try the AP, and it performed reasonably. And I think it requires, though, buffing your aiming as much as you possibly can. And with that, then the smoke and the hydro are the same-ish duration and cooldown time. 105-second cooldown and 123 action time here on the smoke. 105 cooldown and 121 action time. So if I was to take the hydro mod, suddenly they would be out of sync. And we would like them to be in sync. You're not always going to sync them up, but it's really useful to have the hydro when you're in your smoke screen. While it does move around and that does make it harder for people to torp you, it's still just really valuable to have that extra assurance, as well as if someone tries to sneak up on your smoke, you're going to spot them at 5 kilometers. As for the build, looked a little something like this. We're not going for brawler build on this one because it's a relatively squishy ship. I mean, it's got okay HP. It's actually a little less HP than a Daring would have. But more importantly, no healing makes it tough to do the open water build with a ship that only goes 36 knots without its engine boost. And concealment is a little bit better, though, than Daring. I may have forgotten to mention that. A little better detection and certainly better DPM. But no heals. For me, that is such a big deal. And I didn't mention it yet. I mean, the AA is terrible, obviously. But also, your ASWs are atrocious. This is... it's so bad that, yeah, we're going into a training room so I can show you this. It is disgusting. Not only do you have this launcher style, it drops off the side. You get like 2 underneath you, and then the rest all go over here. It's so bad. Not only that, you get 5 bombs only. That's it. You get 5 of them per reload, and it has the same reload as Daring. Daring gets 16 bombs. It's the same damage, too. What are we doing, Wargaming? What are we doing? Come on. Subs and carriers are so disgusting to face already. Do we have to nerf these ships, other surface ships, for no reason? Why can't all ships just have the same plane-based ASW, standardized for their tier, and that way people at least have something to do against these submarines? I would not recommend charging a sub with this ship. It sounds like a good idea that you can do it. Your hydro is really powerful. Remember, hydro's only spotting submarines when they're underwater at 2 kilometers, so it doesn't matter if you're a Daring or a Vampire 2. And your ASWs are just terrible. It's just disgusting. And with that little tangent out of the way, I think we're done. That is the Vampire 2. It is still an interesting ship. It is still a very powerful ship. Just one that I don't prefer because for me and my playstyle, there's a better version available. And that is the Daring in the irregular tech tree. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Is Vampire 2 worth getting in 2025? For me, no. But I'll definitely be ranking all of these Research Bureau ships once we're through the main videos on them. We'll do a tier list towards the end, so you can look forward to that as well. But for now, thank you very much for watching. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below, so for those who are looking to maybe purchase this ship, they can get alternative perspectives on it down there. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.